And thank you to our hosts and to Jan for squeezing me into this panel at short notice. I'll try and keep my contribution brief to leave some time for questions. We could talk about the QS methodology, but I figure most of you are aware of it. It's been around for a long time, so we'd focus on the theme of the conference, which is the reputation component in particular. I think it's worth mentioning at first that, what QS is in all this for. Our mission statement as a company is to enable motivated people around the world to achieve their potential by fostering international mobility, educational achievement, and career development. Perhaps in contrast to many of the other ranking providers, our principal intended audience is students, more specifically prospective international students. Perhaps some of those students that were videoed earlier in Louise's presentation would have been the students that we would be intending to reach with our work. I think it's worth talking about QS in slightly different terms, however. I think we could be characterized as the pioneers of international university rankings. Whilst we certainly weren't the first, Shanghai were there a year before we began, we were the first to use reputation in rankings. We were the first to build rankings upon data collected directly from universities. We were the first and still the only international global ranking to go through the IREG audit process. We are also the most popular by independent web traffic statistics, with over 3 million visitors to our website every month in a normal month, and perhaps rather more than that when we do our main releases. This, of course, is all an excuse for me to compare myself to Captain Kirk, a lifetime ambition that I've had for some time, and here it is. So we see ourselves to boldly go. We've also been the first to issue rankings of global universities in a wide range of subject areas. Next week, it will be 36 different subject disciplines that we will be ranking universities in some cases as many as 300 or 400 institutions. Our main methodology that I won't dwell upon is well understood. It's simple. It doesn't use too many indicators. It's comparatively discipline independent, given its reliance on reputation, which I'll go into in a bit more depth. And it has a comparatively low dependence on self-reporting in comparison to some others. From a survey perspective, and the surveys do carry 50% of the weighting, it's our biggest point of criticism, but the surveys are discipline independent. We are able to gather survey responses in significant numbers from across all disciplines, and that improves in some ways upon bibliometric indicators for a degree of discipline independence in the original data. They're also language independent. We conduct the surveys in, I think, 14 different languages, which enable us to pick up expertise and expert opinion on the quality of institutions in a variety of languages, whilst their research may not be being cited because it's being published in languages that are not broadly read beyond their own country. It is also something that we're able to derive without the interpretive error that we might cause by collecting data directly from the university. So there's an independent reporting component to them. Sample sizes. We still get criticism here and there for having small sample sizes. This is based on very ancient history. Our sample sizes today are dramatic. In the subject rankings that we're producing next week, there are 85,000 academic responses collected over 5 years and 42,000 employer responses collected over 5 years that are contributing to that work. This is a very substantial number of expert opinions. In a court of law situation, they'll use expert witnesses. Usually the opposition and the proposition will have one qualified expert opinion to draw a decision on the guilt or innocence of the person in the dock. We have 120,000 expert witnesses that together are combining their opinions on the quality of institutions worldwide. Yes, each one of those opinions is subjective, but when you combine 120,000 of them, I think you get a pretty interesting read on where quality is happening. The academic responses are increasingly well distributed. We have strong response from the US and Europe, but also a widely distributed response with good representation in Latin America and Asia. In the employer context, a little bit lower response from Latin America these days, but stronger response than ever in China, the US, Canada, and Europe. So let's talk about reputation a little bit more broadly to raise some questions about why it's important to you, not just in a rankings context. It seems to become freshly interesting to universities because if they have a good reputation, they have a good ranking. Well, you should have a good reputation anyway, and you can't build a good reputation without quality on the ground. You need to be a good university before you can be ably perceived as a good university. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and just 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that, you'll do things differently. I think this is an interesting reflection on why reputation matters, why the action of every faculty member, of every leader of your institution is vitally important. And if you're thinking about it in reputation terms, perhaps you'll take more care. I was very impressed by the logo used for this conference. This is a slide that's been in my presentation for a couple of years. And it does reflect that rankings, but also reputation, really only present the very surface of what an institution is doing. There's a lot going on beneath it, and all of that is important, but that needs to manifest itself in recognizable and visible impacts to the world, both in terms of research output, perhaps, and the quality of the graduates that you're producing, but also in terms of perception and reputation. There seems to be a little bit of an almost genetic discomfort with that in higher education. Academics don't actually like shouting about how good they are very much. They seem to prefer the idea of being a best-kept secret, something that's exceptionally good but nobody really knows about and we want to keep it to ourselves. But I challenge that, and I challenge that not in a rankings context or a reputation context or an opportunity to win you as a potential client for our business context. I mean that in terms of your own individual mission. From my perspective, all universities around the world are trying to do good. They're trying to improve the quality of their education. They're trying to foster leaders of the future. They're trying to solve significant global problems. And the best way to do that is in collaboration with the best other people around the world, the best other minds around the world, the best other employers around the world, the best industries around the world, the best other universities around the world. And if they can't find you, they're not going to collaborate with you, and you're not going to form as meaningful component of that solution as you might otherwise do. The Royal Society produced an interesting report in 2011 that stated collaboration is increasingly essential for addressing the global challenges of the 21st century. That's not just talking about academic research, that's talking about overpopulation, that's talking about energy, that's talking about a variety of things that are fundamentally crucial to society. Collaboration between you and other universities in leading ways is vital to addressing these problems, and it's not going to happen if you can't be seen. You have many stakeholders, students, parents, staff, potential and current partners, alumni, employers, local community, government, industry, and donors. It is in your interest and theirs that you are more recognized for your strengths and you are more widely known for what you are good at. It is vital in that context to use that dirty word that John Haldane mentioned yesterday and build yourself an effective brand. In conclusion, I'd like to introduce you to something else. A show of hands for how many parents there are in the room. Parents? So you're perhaps familiar with Where's Wally? I checked that it's been translated into multiple languages and that in Spanish it is also Wally. It's been renamed to Waldo in North America and various other names. And I'd encourage you to look at this slide. If anybody can spot him, raise a hand. Anybody? There's some hands pointing at the back. Can anybody see Wally on this picture? Don't be shy. It's difficult at a distance, but he's down there in the bottom left corner. But this is a realistic analogy of the world that you are operating in. It is crowded. There are 24,000 universities in Webometrics. Each one of those has their own distinctive competencies, their own brand. Wally has a brand. I don't know if any of you actually found him and were too shy to point him out, but those of you that were looking for Wally's brand. You were looking for the red and white striped jumper, you were looking for the hat and the glasses, you were trying to identify those distinctive aspects amongst a very crowded picture with a lot of other people to search through. It is the same for potential stakeholders for your university. There are a lot of universities out there, and you have to distinguish yourself and build a brand that is recognizable and identifiable. To put it in different popular culture terms, for those of you who are Game of Thrones fans, Tyrion Lannister, never forget what you are, the rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you. The reason I include this quote is because there's a fundamental and exciting component of using reputation in evaluating universities, and that is that it is inextricable from your individual identity as an institution. It need not and should not be a homogenizing factor in the same way that sometimes research productivity might be, or even employability can be. It is an opportunity to identify your unique strengths and your unique character, and to build that into your reputation in order to stand out from the crowd at what you are very best at. Thank you.